A retired UFC champion walks across the training floor of his facility in Scottsdale, Arizona, points at the man wrapping his hands in the corner, and says, loudly enough that the 6 other people in the room can hear it clearly, that he will give $1,000 to any charity of the man's choosing if he can stay on his feet for 5 seconds. 5 seconds, not 5 minutes. 5 seconds. The man in the corner looks up. He finishes wrapping his left hand. He stands. He says, okay. He lasted 14 seconds. What happened in round 2 was not on the dare. There is a training facility on East Camelback Road in Scottsdale, Arizona, called Varro Combat Sports, a converted warehouse. The original loading dock still visible on the south face of the building, painted over in matte black, turned now into a kind of monument to the transformation of the space from its previous life. Inside, 4 million square feet of training floor, 2 full-size MMA cages, a dedicated grappling room with competition-grade mats, a weights area that takes up the entire east wall. The kind of facility that does not need to advertise because the people it is designed for already know it is there. Varro Combat Sports had been open for 7 years. Its founder had been a competitor for 9 years before that. The walls of the entrance corridor held photographs, not trophies, photographs, arrange chronologically, 16 years of a career documented in the particular way of combat sports. The raised hands, the belt presentations, the post-fight face that looks nothing like the pre-fight one. The last photograph in the row was from a fight in Las Vegas in February of the year before the gym opened. The hand was raised. The expression was not what you might expect from a champion. The man who owned all of it was named Varro Kellner. He was 44 years old at the time of the story, 6 feet even, 212 pounds, the same weight he had walked into the cage at for the last 4 years of his career. His neck was the first thing you noticed, then his hands, then the way he occupied a room, not aggressively but completely, the way a piece of load-bearing architecture occupies a room. He was not a man who made space for uncertainty. The facility ran 22 classes a week. It had 61 registered members, of which 9 were competitive fighters at the regional or national level. The rest were civilians, lawyers, contractors, a high school principal, a woman who had been a nationally ranked wrestler in college in the 1990s and who trained 3 mornings a week before anyone else arrived. Varro coached the competitive fighters himself. The civilian classes were run by 2 of his former training partners. It charged $280 a month for general membership. He did not negotiate on that number. It was precise about what his facility was and what it was not. It was not a CrossFit gym with cages. It was not a self-defense program. It was not a place where you came to feel like a fighter without doing the work of one. It was a serious training environment for people who were serious about the work, and the standard was maintained without apology. A dark SUV had parked on the east side of the building at 9:47 on a Tuesday morning in October. The man who stepped out was wearing a plain black t-shirt, dark training pants, and shoes that had seen real use. He carried no bag. He went through the front door, stopped at the desk, gave his name to the young woman working there, and asked for Varro. She had looked at him once. Then she had gone to find Varro without saying anything else. Varro Kellner had grown up in Tucson in a house that was loud and crowded, and not always safe. His father had been a capable man in a mechanical sense. He could fix anything with an engine, could build a wall straight, could wire a circuit board, and entirely incapable in the ways that matter more. He drank in the particular pattern of a man who starts when the pressure exceeds his coping and cannot reliably stop once he has started. He was not cruel when he drank. He was absent. He sat in rooms with his family and was not present in them. And Varro had understood from quite young that the absence was in some ways harder to navigate than cruelty would have been. He had started fighting at 15, not in a gym, on the street, which is a different education and a worse one. He had found a gym at 17, a small MMA facility on South 6th Avenue, run by a man named Tony Basque, who had competed regionally in the late 1990s and who recognized, in Varro's particular combination of physical gifts and barely managed rage, the raw material of something that could go either way. He had spent 2 years redirecting it. Varro had gone 11-0 as an amateur. He had turned professional at 21. He had won his first 10 professional fights, 7 by finish, and signed with the UFC at 24. He had won his first 5 UFC bouts, lost 2, won 6 more, and captured the welterweight title at 33 in a fight in Las Vegas that most people who watched it described as the best fight on the card. It had defended the title twice. He had retired at 35. The retirement has been his decision, made quietly, without the ceremonial announcement most fighters in his position arranged. He had told his manager by phone. It had told Tony Basque in person, which was the harder conversation and the one that mattered. He had given the media a brief statement and not followed up on the request for explanation. The explanation was private. It stayed private. What Barrow had built in Scottsdale in the years since was real and serious, and his own. It was proud of it in the specific way of a man who has made something from the ground up with his own hands, his own judgment, and the credibility of his own name. The facility was his. The standard was his. The culture was his. He was protective of it in ways he did not always examine carefully. The trouble with building your identity inside a set of standards, he would understand this later, sitting in a back room with a man he had just spent 14 seconds trying to embarrass, is that the standards have a way of becoming the thing you protect instead of the thing you serve. The dare had not come from nowhere. The man at the front desk was not the first person Barrow had done that to. The young woman at the desk was named Priya Nair. She had been working at Varo Combat Sports for 11 months. She had come to the facility initially as a member. She trained in the Tuesday and Thursday evening sessions, had been training in Muay Thai for 3 years before she came to Varo's. Anne was technically accomplished enough that the 2 coaches who ran the civilian classes occasionally used her as a demonstration partner. She had taken the desk job because it was offered, and because she needed the income while she finished her graduate degree in sports medicine. The job was straightforward. She answered the phone, managed the schedule, handled registrations and billing, ordered supplies. She was good at it. She liked the members. She did not always like the way Varo handled visitors. The facility had a policy, Varo's policy, about people who showed up without appointments wanting to look around or try a class. The policy was that they were welcome to observe a session from the lobby, could schedule a trial class for the following week, and were asked to provide a brief background on their training history before the trial. The policy was not unreasonable. Plenty of serious facilities ran something similar. The way Varo applied it, in practice, was not always what the policy said. She had watched him move through the lobby when a visitor arrived without an appointment and make the calculation she had seen him make before. A quick read of the person, their build, their bearing, their clothing, the invisible assessment that produced either an invitation or an efficient redirect. The redirect was always polite. It was also always final. She had seen him redirect people who, in her judgment, had every reason to be there. She had not said anything about it. That Tuesday morning, she went to find Varo in the main training floor, where he was running a conditioning session with 2 of his competitive fighters. She told him he had a visitor at the desk. Seaside the name. Barro looked at her. He handed the fighter he was working with a water bottle and walked to the lobby. It came through the door, and the man at the desk turned and put out his hand. "Thank you for seeing me," he said. "I've been wanting to visit." Barro shook his hand. He said, "Appreciate it. What brings you out?" "I train." The man said, "I've been training for a few years. Someone who knows your facility said I should come see it." "What do you train in?" "Jiu-jitsu, primarily. Some judo. I've done some striking work." Barro looked at him for a moment. The black t-shirt, the training pants, the shoes. He did the calculation. Aside, "What level would you say you're at?" The man considered this. "Intermediate, maybe. Still learning." Barro nodded. He said, "I can have Priya schedule you for a trial session next week. Our General membership runs $280 a month. That covers you for all the civilian classes." "I'd love that," the man said. "Any chance I could see the main floor while I'm here?" "It's in session right now," Varro said. "I understand. I don't want to interrupt anything." There was a pause. Barro sighed. "Come on back." The main floor was running 2 fighters through rounds on the cage. A Thursday night regional tournament was 3 weeks out, and the work had a sharpness to it that the civilian sessions did not have. 2 other members were working jiu-jitsu positions on the mat. The weights area was empty. The man stood at the edge of the floor and watched. He was quiet and still in the way of someone who was actually watching, not performing, watching. After a few minutes, one of the fighters called over. Hey, you the guy from the movies? The fighter was 23 years old, from Phoenix, with a regional record of 7-2, and the particular inability to calculate social risk that comes with that age and that record. His name was Dom. Yeah, the man said. Dom grinned. He looked at Varro. Varro had been watching the exchange. He looked at the man. The black t-shirt, the intermediate self-assessment, the quiet bearing, and made a decision he did not examine. Aside, here's a thought. Since you're here, $1,000 to the charity of your choice, if you can stay standing for 5 seconds. Aside it with a smile, the kind of smile that does not require a response. The room went quiet. The other fighter had stopped. The two on the mat had looked up. The man at the edge of the floor looked at Varro for a moment. He said, "Okay." They moved to the center of the mat. No gloves, no protective gear. This was a demonstration, not a sparring session, and Varro made no move to equip either of them. He stood opposite the man and found his stance. "Whenever you're ready," he said. What happened in the next 14 seconds was not what Varro had prepared for. The man moved first, not with the tentative forward step of someone uncertain of the distance, but with a specific, quiet economy of motion. The kind that belongs to someone who has spent years drilling the same movements until they require no thought. It closed the distance at an angle, deflected the first attempt at a clinch with a rotation of his hips, slipped the follow, and found the outside position. Barro had been in this position 4,000 times. He knew exactly what to do from it. He turned, established the tie-up, felt the pressure he expected to feel. It felt something he did not expect instead. The man did not resist the tie-up. He moved with it, redirected it, used the rotation to create a separation that left Varro momentarily off his base. Momentarily, Barro recovered. It was a former world champion. His recovery time from an unexpected position was measured in tenths of seconds. He looked at the man across from him. 14 seconds had passed. The room was very quiet. Barro said nothing for a moment. Then he said, "Where did you train jiu-jitsu?" The man named 3 people. The names were not unfamiliar to Varro. Dom, from the edge of the mat, said, "Varro e moved like." "I know," Varro said. He stood in the center of the mat with his hands at his sides and looked at the man in the black t-shirt and tried to locate a way to characterize what had just happened that he was comfortable with. He could not find one. He said, "You want to go again?" The man said, "Sure." They ran 3 more rounds. The second lasted 41 seconds before Varro found his position. The third was longer. The man had a shoulder roll off the cage that Varro had not seen from a non-professional in 9 years of running his facility. And spent 30 seconds working against it before he found the answer. The fourth was closer than Varro's face showed. When they finished, the room was different from what it had been before they started. Dom was sitting on the edge of the cage, forearms on his knees, watching with the particular attention of a young fighter who has just understood something about the distance between the training he is doing and the training he could be doing. The other fighter had not moved from the corner of the mat. The 2 on the grappling floor were standing. Varro handed the man a water bottle. "You said intermediate," he said. "I did." "That wasn't intermediate." The man shrugged slightly. "Depends on the room." Varro looked at him for a moment. Then something shifted in his expression. Not much, barely visible, but Priya saw it from the doorway where she had been standing for the last 9 minutes. She had seen Varro's face in a lot of configurations. She had not seen this one. He said, "Come in the back for a minute." The back office at Varro Combat Sports was not large. A desk, a chair behind it, 2 chairs in front of it, a whiteboard on the south wall covered in training schedules, a single window looking out on the parking lot. The filing cabinet in the corner had a coffee cup on top of it that had been there long enough to have left a ring. Barro sat in the chair behind the desk. The man sat in one of the chairs in front of it. Barro said, "That was not what I expected." "I know," the man said. "The dare was—" He stopped. "It was meant to embarrass me," the man said. "Not with heat. Just accurately." Barro looked at the window. "Yeah," he said. "It was." He was quiet for a moment. "I do that," he said. "Not always as obviously as that. But I do it. Someone comes in here who doesn't look like what I expect a serious person to look like, and I find a way to put them at the wrong end of the comparison. Make the room feel what I want the room to feel. He said it the way a person says a thing they have known for a while and not said aloud. Why? The man said. Barro was quiet. Because the facility is mine, he said finally. The standard is mine, and when someone walks in here who I haven't cleared, who I didn't invite, who didn't come in through the channel I set up, it feels like a challenge to something. I don't know exactly what, but it feels like one. He looked at the man across the desk. I built this from nothing, he said. After a career that cost me, it cost a lot, and I made something real. And the realness of it depends on the standard being what I say it is. I know that feeling, the man said. He said it simply, without performing recognition. I spent years building something where the quality was the point, where cutting corners would mean the thing wasn't the thing anymore. And I understand protecting that. He understand it specifically. He paused. But what I've found, and I'm not saying this is true for you, I can only say it was true for me, is that the standard and the gatekeeping are not always the same thing. The standard is what you're protecting. The gatekeeping is sometimes what the standard looks like when it starts protecting itself. Barro looked at the whiteboard, the training schedules, the names in the columns. There's a guy who came to the desk 3 months ago, he said. Mid-40s. A little heavy. He said he wanted to learn. I told him we weren't running beginners programs right now. He stopped. We were running a beginners program, he said. We are running a beginners program. The man said nothing. He came back the next week, and I had Priya tell him the same thing. The room was quiet. What was his name? The man said. I don't know, Barro said. I never asked. He closed his eyes. He sat that way for a moment. Then the man said, you know what it actually takes to walk in somewhere like this in your mid-40s with no background, a little heavy, and say you want to learn? A lot, Barro said. More than most people have. And he did it twice. Barro opened his eyes. Yeah, he said. The man leaned forward slightly. You built something serious here. The standard is real. I felt it on the mat. Dom is going to be very good. The facility is right. All of that is yours, and is genuine. He held Varro's gaze. The man who came back twice deserves to train here. And I think if you sit with it, you know that. Barro did not say anything for a long time. Outside the window, the parking lot was bright in the October light. A car passed slowly on Camelback Road. He said, the $1,000. Keep it, the man said. Give it to Dom's tournament fund. He stood up. I'd like to come back and train here properly, he said, if that's all right. Varro stood. He put out his hand. Yeah, he said. It is. Barro Kellner did not change the intake policy at Barro Combat Sports that week. It changed it on a Thursday 11 days later, after a Tuesday and a Wednesday spent in the particular discomfort of someone who has looked at something they can no longer not see. The new policy was not complicated. Walk-ins were offered a free trial session, no pre-qualification required, no background needed before the door. The only criteria for the trial was showing up. He called Priya into his office and told her. She listened to the whole thing. Then she said, the man from 3 months ago, the one who came twice. Yes, Barro said. His name is Gerald Marsh, she said. I kept his contact information. Barro looked at her. Of course you did, he said. She had kept it because she had known 11 months ago when he first came to the desk and Varro had told him the program was closed, that she was watching a mistake being made. She had not said anything. She had written the name down. Varro called Gerald Marsh himself. He had thought about whether to have Priya do it, had decided that was the wrong answer, had made the call himself on a Thursday afternoon from the desk in his office. A told Gerald the program had an opening. He told him the trial session was free. It told him, after a pause, in the direct way of a man who does not have a practiced version of this, that he had turned him away twice, and that had been wrong, and he was sorry. Gerald Marsh said, I appreciate that. I'll be there. He came on a Monday. It was quiet, attentive, worked hard, and had absolutely no idea what he was doing technically, which was entirely the point. He came back the following Monday, then the Monday after that. Priya left Varro Combat Sports 14 months after that Tuesday in October. She had finished her graduate degree and accepted a position with a sports medicine practice in Tempe. On her last day, Barro took her to lunch at the place on Scottsdale Road she had mentioned once, in passing. 6 months earlier, she had not expected him to remember. It thanked her for keeping Gerald Marsh's contact information. She said, "I kept a lot of things." He looked at her. "I know," she said. "I should have said them." Esait, you were right not to trust that I was ready to hear them. They sat with that for a moment. "I'm ready now," he said. "If you ever want to have a different conversation." She told him 3 things. He listened to all of them without interrupting. 2 of them he already knew. 1 of them he did not. He thought about the one he did not know for a long time after she left. It changed one more thing at the facility because of it. A small thing, a Thursday morning open mat. No instruction, no coaching, just the floor and whoever showed up. It ran 6 people the first week, 14 the 5th. It became within a year the most attended session on the schedule. He did not fully understand why until Dom explained it to him. Dom sighed because nobody's being assessed. They're just training. Barro looked at the floor. "Yeah," he said. "That's it." Don won his regional tournament 3 weeks after that Tuesday in October. He won 2 fights, lost 1, came back and won the third. After the third fight, standing in the cage with the decision going the way he had not been certain it would go, he thought about the man on the mat in the black t-shirt and the shoulder roll off the cage that he had been drilling every day for 3 weeks since he saw it. He had not asked for the movement. He had just watched and replicated it. He went 8-3 over the next 2 years and earned his first national ranking. In an interview after the fight that moved him into the top 25, he was asked about his training. He named Barro first, then Tony Basque, who had trained Varro and whom Dom had driven to Tucson to meet because Varro had made the introduction. The interviewer asked if there were any other influences. Dom said, "There was a guy who came to train one day and moved in a way I hadn't seen. I've been chasing it ever since." The interviewer asked who it was. Dom smiled. "He just came to train," he said. "That's really all there is to say about it." The thing I keep returning to in this story is not the 14 seconds. I know that is the part that sounds like the story. The dare, the mat, the man who was supposed to last 5 seconds and lasted 14 and then came back for 3 more rounds and made a former champion use the full breadth of his ability. That is satisfying. It is meant to be satisfying. But the part I actually think about is the man who came back twice. Gerald Marsh, 44 years old, a little heavy, no background. He drove to a facility that turned him away and came back the following week. He sat in his car in that parking lot, probably, and talked himself back through the front door a second time. The courage in that, the very ordinary, private, unwitnessed courage of returning to a place that has already said no, is the thing no one in the story was watching for. Barro wasn't watching for it. Priya was watching for it but didn't know what to do with it yet. Nobody was there with the camera. He just came back. I do not know what I would have done. The first time, maybe. The second time, I am honestly not sure. Gerald Marsh did it twice. That is the thing worth carrying. This story is fictional, inspired by Keanu Reeves' well-known reputation for genuine commitment to his craft and for treating every room he enters as though the work is the point. Drop a comment and tell me which part of this one stayed with you. Share it with someone who's been thinking about going back somewhere a second time. Subscribe if you want to be here for the next one. See you in the next one.